All right, welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. This is my 100th video that I've filmed for you guys. So as a 100th video special, I would like to do just a get to know you. Who is the BMW guy? So I'm going to introduce you to the BMW guy, and I'm going to start from the beginning and just kind of go through my life story and how I ended up in the position that I am in today, working out of my garage, working on BMW motorcycles, and selling parts online, doing YouTube. All right, so we'll start from the beginning. So from a very, very young age, I was exposed to motorcycles when I was, I'm gonna say 2 years old. I was exposed to motorcycles. I should even say before that I was exposed to motorcycles. My parents have had motorcycles their entire lives, or my entire life. And as a young kid, I was riding on the back of my dad's Goldwing with a bicycle helmet on. There was actually a point in time where I had a car seat ratchet strapped onto the back of my dad's motorcycle, which would never fly in 2024, but this is the 90s we're talking about here. So I'll pull a picture up right here. I think I still have it of me wearing a bike helmet on the back of my dad's, I believe it was a Honda Goldwing, just with a big smile on my face, riding on the back of my dad's motorcycle. As a kid, I loved to ride on the back of my dad's motorcycle, even all the way up through like my I don't even know, 13, I was riding on the back of my dad's motorcycle. We went down to like Tennessee and did the Dragon's Tail, so like all that stuff. Motorcycling has been a big part of my life, my entire life. So obviously motorcycling, and on top of that, knowing the just intricacies in the inner workings of how things tick has really been something that I've just tinkered and done stuff my whole life. You know, my dad, again, he had a little small workshop attached to their house, and I would always, go out there and help him with things. Like I was welding at a pretty young age, like using power tools, we'll say, and taking just random things apart and putting them back together, fixing things, like remote control cars, like RC cars were a big thing, like, wrecking those and fixing them, taking them apart, upgrading them, putting different servos and motors and all that stuff. Just very high level mechanical stuff I was doing at a very young age. So just having that understanding has always really just got to me for whatever reason. Like just knowing how things work, how things tick, why they work has been a big part of my childhood, I guess. And I guess adulthood, here I am. So, growing up around motorcycles, high school, really wasn't the greatest student, I guess. Like I was not interested in history. I was not interested in English. I was not interested in math. I was interested in shop class. I was interested in woodworking. Doing stuff with your hands, being hands-on, just doing stuff. That's what I did. And during one of our shop classes, we had a recruiter come through for UTI, Universal Technical Institute, where he kind of gave a sales pitch of kind of like, what do you guys want to do when you grow up? Work on cars? That sounds great. Like that's kind of what you're doing here. Like there's a reason you're in this class because you like this stuff. So why not go to college at UTI? And a part of that, that honestly like sold me. I was like, that's what I want to do. I had no like desire to go to college and get like a degree in engineering or something along those lines, but just like doing stuff. That's what I wanted to do. So he gave the sales pitch on MMI, the motorcycle side of things, the Motorcycle Mechanics Institute, and I signed up for that and got accepted into that school. In that school, there's these electives you choose. I initially, at first, chose Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, Kawasaki, okay? You go through like your general classes where you just learn various like suspension class, chassis class, powertrain class, whatever, kind of down the line. Those are like your generals. You finish those out and then you pick up on an OEM. So at first I did Yamaha. I graduated 4.0 through all my generals. Yamaha, I got a 4.0, student of the class, and then I did Kawasaki, again, 4.0, student of the class. It was honestly like not challenging at all. It was almost too easy. And it was like, I hate to sound cocky or anything, but I just wasn't learning. Like everything that they were teaching, I have already done or already knew just because of my exposure to dirt bikes and four-wheelers and motorcycles and all this stuff my entire childhood. Like one of my friend's grandpa's house, he has a 40-acre plot of land, and within this 40 acres, he actually used to own a dealership, several dealerships, and a couple service stations like way back in the day, in like the 50s, and he kept a lot of his inventory after he had sold everything out. So there was several like old Hondas that are probably collectors, but we destroyed them. Like, I hate to say it, but like, we were young and we would pull out an old Honda motorcycle, like a Honda Dream or like a Honda 200 four-wheeler, CT70s, like things that are now worth kind of a lot of money today to collectors. We would pull these things out. Some of these stuff we're pulling out of the crate in 2001, a 1970 Honda, pulling it out of the crate, the carburetor's gummed up, gas tank's rusty, whatever, get this thing up and running, and then we're riding them on a motocross track, just beating on them. And looking back on that, that probably wasn't the right thing to do, but you know what, maybe it was. That's kind of what shaped me into the person I was today. Like without that, I probably wouldn't be here. I don't know. So that really, really kind of taught me a lot on just how things work from like fuel and spark and compression and all these things. Like we had dirt bikes, and there wasn't a weekend that didn't go by that we weren't putting a top end in an old Yamaha two-stroke dirt bike that we, just rode like hell, And so I was jumping around there. Going back to like MMI, finished off my Honda, Yamaha, all those classes, and there was an elective, BMW elective, that the school physically approached me, and they're like, the BMW is a class that you have to be approached in order to participate in. So they came to me, would you like to participate in the BMW class? And I was like, yes, that's what I want to do. Like maybe that'll be a little bit more of a challenge, or if not, it's at least like kind of a step in the right direction. It's something to set me apart from everyone else. Like this is, yeah, done, sign me up. So I dropped Suzuki, which was one of my other electives that I chose. Kind of all the Japanese brands, in my opinion, were all the same. There's nothing new to learn between a Honda, between a Yamaha. Sure, they have a little bit different software when you're looking into the diagnostic side of things, but outside of that, they're all the same. Like an inline four is an inline four, whether it's in a Honda Civic or a Honda CBR or a Suzuki GSXR or whatever. They're all the same. Like an engine's an engine. So I just had a great understanding of that stuff. Picked up BMW. Again, excelled way beyond everyone else's ability. Graduated with a 4.0, 100% attendance, student of the class, director's list, and finished out the school of MMI, and I had a great time. I was like the compared to high school, which I was barely passing, not by that I couldn't, but just because I didn't care, I then was able to go to this school, that something that I cared about and was truly passionate about, and I was able to just excel.
Graduating with perfect attendance from Yamapro, making student of course, director's list. Graduating from Kawasaki with perfect attendance. Graduating with BMW with perfect attendance. Kevin, the man, the myth, the legend, Johnson.
Coming out of that school, I got a job at a dealership in the cities here. It was a multi-brand dealership. One of the brands included BMW. I was working there as a tech, straight out of school, you know, doing tires, doing oil changes, like low-level stuff. And after working there for a couple months, I got a call from BMW of North America. Saying, would you like to participate in the STEP program? And I was kind of like, you know, tell me more, like I'm listening. So they gave the rundown. This is a very high level class. You are gonna attend this. You're gonna be living in New Jersey for the next 9 months. Living there for 9 months. After the 9-month class, pending completion, you will then walk out of that school as a master level technician. So you will be what would normally take several years in a dealership environment. You're gonna walk out of this class, which is a very in-depth, thorough school, 5 days a week, 10 hours a day, exclusively working on BMW motorcycles, taught by BMW of North America. Their North America headquarters, where Rolls-Royce is, where BMW cars are, where Mini Cooper is. You walk out of that as a master level technician. Absolutely, sign me up. Like, when do you need me there? There's like, well, you know, kind of pump the brakes here, kid. There's a couple more things we need to do in order for you to kind of go to get here. We had to complete a mechanical aptitude test, SAT test, which I passed 100%. I aced it, perfect score, which is like extremely rare to get a perfect score in that mechanical aptitude test. It's very, very rare. Got a perfect score, and of the there's 2,000 kids that are invited to go to the BMW elective at MMI, and then of those 2,000, that's through all their campuses. I was in the Phoenix, Arizona campus, but between all of their campuses and then all of their graduating classes throughout the whole year, there's roughly 2,000 people that graduate from there. And of those 2,000, only 8 are invited to go to the STEP program. And I was one of those 8. I showed up at the STEP program, like ready and willing to learn, and kind of like, I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna give it my all, and I knew it was gonna be a lot more challenging than MMI was, for me at least. And while you're there, you're taking several steps further, taking an even deeper dive into these bikes. You know, you're taking a bike, completely stripping it down and reassembling it. Every single bike in BMW's whole model lineup of 2012, the whole 2012 model lineup, and then a little bit back to like the R1100s and up. We pretty much disassembled all of them, every model, and reassembled it, went through every gearbox, the engines, went through everything. So I graduated there, 4.0 again, with when I finished there, I walked out of that a master technician with an extreme high level of mechanical knowledge on BMWs. Another thing, just kind of a fun fact, the entire time that I was going to school in New Jersey, my only mode of transportation when I was going to school there was my 2007 Suzuki GSXR 750 that I purchased against my parents' better judgment, but still have it to this day. And you will probably have seen that in a lot of the backgrounds. If you pay attention, the backgrounds to a lot of my videos. Still, that was my first motorcycle, crotch rocket, of course. Young kid, wanted a crotch rocket. Don't regret that purchase at all. Still have it to this day. Plan on keeping it for the rest of my life. So, going to school in New Jersey, finished that out, did great. And then when you finish the school at New Jersey, they kind of are like, where do you want to work? They have a list of dealerships that are hiring that need a master level technician. Every BMW dealership is required to have a master level technician in order to sell BMW motorcycles, which makes sense, right? You need, if they're going to sell motorcycles, you at least need someone qualified to work on them in order to sell them. So I was given a list of dealerships, and one of the people that had wanted me was like South Seas BMW in Hawaii, which in my head I was like, that sounds awesome. Like, that's where I want to work. But then kind of thinking about it, it's like, well, you know, then I'm trapped on an island, and honestly, my end goal would be to get closer to home. At this time, I've been living in New Jersey. I've lived in Phoenix, Arizona, and just wanted to kind of put my roots down in Stillwater, Minnesota, where I grew up. I really like this town, and it's kind of where I see myself living for the rest of my life, we'll say. It's a nice River Valley area. I'd recommend anyone to come visit this area if you'd like. It's a great time. So, accepted a position at a small dealership just north of Madison, Wisconsin. I won't say the name, but accepted a dealership at a position just north of Madison, Wisconsin, kind of in the middle of nowhere. And this was a ma and pa dealership, something that's very, we'll say it was in business since 1954. It was kind of, you know, it's in a snowy area, like Wisconsin, right? It snows, and during the first 2 years of working there, they laid off their technicians just because there was no work to be had. So like, there's nothing to work on, so there's no point in paying you guys to hang out here, so we got laid off. And I'm kind of like, you know, I can't not work. I'm a busybody. I have to be moving, have to be doing something. And so I approached the owner and said, like, how can I work year round? Like, what can we do? And at the time, I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar, like dealerships turn down bikes that are old, like older airheads. They say, no, we don't want to work on your 1965 R50/2 that I got over there. We don't want to work on that. Like, none of our techs are qualified to work on it. Like, I mean, sure, we'll do an oil change, but like, you want a top end rebuild? Like, come on, dude. Like, get out of here. Like, sorry, we don't. You have to go to someone else to do that. Like, we're not going to work on that. So, I kind of was like, how can I capture that market and maybe keep my job through the winter? So they were able to. They kind of was like, yeah, I mean, if that's something that you want to do, yeah, we'll support that. You know, so. I was very much self-taught on how to work on airheads. The owner, like I said, they were in business since 1954, so the owner had a pretty high level of understanding as far as like those airheads go. So he was able to teach me a lot of information that he knew, and I relied on YouTube. Brooke Reams, Boxer 2 valve. I relied on him to teach me a lot of the information that I know today, right? And of these, all the bikes that came in, I really did master my craft of working on airheads. And people started noticing. People came from all over to Michelin's to have me work on their airhead. And like, for the next 3 years, I was able to keep my job all winter because I was rebuilding rear drives and transmissions and doing large undertaking tasks on airheads that no one else would work on. So, like, I don't know, that means something to me. I did, like, that's what I was doing. On top of that, I was working on brand new bikes and the whole BMW model lineup, similar to what I do in all my videos. I work on everything. Like, I'll work on put a motor in a S1000, and then the next week I'll be doing valves on a old BMW single cylinder. Like, I work on everything. And kind of Micheler's, like, I worked there for, 5 years at this time, and like, my end goal was always to get back to Stillwater. This is 4 hours away from home. And there was a dealership opening up in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. The owner of the dealership approached me. How he learned about me, I guess I never even asked that question, but he approached me, he noticed me, he knew about me, someone in the BMW community told him about me, and he actively recruited me. Like, hey, he at the time was an Indian Motorcycle and a Triumph dealership, and he wanted to open up a BMW dealership, and he needed a master tech, and he basically recruited me. And he said, like, will you be a master tech? And I was like, sounds great. We worked out the details, talked about it a lot, and I quit my job at the dealership I was working at in Madison, Wisconsin, just north of Madison, and moved to Stillwater, Minnesota, and I was to then work at a dealership in the cities, and to like work there. It was a very toxic dealership. It was not a great place to work. It was supposed to become a BMW dealership, and I saw zero progress in that. At the time, I was working the parts counter, renting out U-Hauls and scheduling service appointments for Indian and Triumph motorcycles. I approached the owner and asked him several times about the progress on becoming a BMW dealership, and kind of got the same old, same old. It was a bad dealership. I wouldn't ever go there, and I quit, and I was like, so now I'm quit my job, which I was very happy and content with at the dealership in Wisconsin, moved back home to a bad dealership, and quit there after 2 months, and now I'm at home with my parents, unemployed. So I was kind of like, now what? Like, really, like, what am I gonna do now? Kind of, I don't know, felt like a loser. Is being a little transparent, too honest, I don't know. So what do I do? And I was like, well, I mean, maybe I could do this on my own. So I went on Vistaprint and I made business cards, and I thought about it for, I thought about it for maybe 5 minutes. Like, what should my name be? And I was like, the BMW guy. And that's the first thing I thought of. I didn't think of anything else. I didn't ask anyone else for their input. I didn't say, hey, what do you think about this name? I was like, that sounds good. Made a business card, spent about 20 minutes on it, put my information on it, done, print. Had all these cards shipped to my house, spent about $50 on them, whatever it was at the time. And then the area that Stillwater, Minnesota, being a very touristy area, there's a lot of motorcycle traffic that comes through, and there's a lot of BMWs that come through. So I started riding my moped around town, and anytime I saw a BMW motorcycle, I would set a business card on their seat and just go on about my day. And I actually got a very high number of callbacks. So I would say 80 to 90% of the people who I set a business card on their seat called me back. And at that moment, I kind of knew, like, this really is possible to do full-time on my own. But I'm living with my parents. Like, now what? So kind of told my parents, like, hey, I'm gonna fix bikes out of your garage. And for those few people watching this video that maybe had me work on their bike out of my parents' garage. Like, my parents have a nice garage, has an epoxy floor. Like, my dad is very particular about his things and about his garage, and I did not have a very big work area to work in. It was a small kind of area that he was allocating to me to work on. It was a like 5-foot by 15-foot area, like enough to fit one motorcycle in, to just do whatever I needed to do and get it out. So I was working on bikes out of my parents' garage, and as I passed out business cards, I got more and more customers, and there was a point, I would say, that I would have 5 or 6 bikes in the garage, and I was very much overstepping my boundaries. My dad was then parking his truck outside, and I was taking over the garage. And then it was kind of to a point where it was like, you cannot have more than 3 motorcycles in the garage at a time. That's the most you can have. And again, I pushed a little bit more boundaries. I would have 3 bikes in the garage, but someone would be picking their bike up on Friday and someone wanted to drop off on Thursday. So there'd be like one night where I would have 4 bikes in the garage, and I was parking bikes in a small garden shed in the back of my, like, hiding them, we'll say, like parking a bike back here, and had 2 in the garage. You know, one bike's in the garage in disrepair doing a clutch job, and the other bike's getting a valve adjustment, and just, there's a lot of stuff that I just was working on, a lot of bikes at once. So I guess fast forward, I then knew that I had to find my own place. So my wife and I, we were looking for houses, and we found a house just across the river in Hudson, where we purchased a house, and the garage that I had at that time was, I would say 12 feet by 12 feet deep and maybe 8 feet wide. It was an old garage, really rickety, and it was borderline embarrassing to have customers come to my house and drop off and then have them see the garage that their bike was being worked on. Like, the house was built in 1925 and the garage was built in 1925. So they had poor lighting, it was dingy, it was dirty, and I knew that, like, I had to build a bigger garage. Like, there was no option. You know, it's kind of in the same situation where I had a Menards tent in the backyard that I was storing bikes in, like, not secure. It was just a poor situation where I had to park a bike behind the garage, and then I had 2 bikes in the garage, and like, I was able to save up enough money to then build this garage that you're in today. And when I built this garage, I was actually, so I've always had a full-time job since moving home, kind of in the engineering field that I've learned a lot about. I worked for an OEM, one of the OEMs local to the area, Polaris, doing powertrain development and focusing on their powertrain side of things, on Indian Victory, Razor, the whole Polaris model lineup, snowmobiles and all that stuff. And I was able to, with the money from there and money from fixing bikes out of my little rinky-dink garage and fixing bikes out of my parents' house, I was able to save up enough money to build this garage, which is a 30-foot by 30-foot shop, more or less. And when I was here, I don't know, working on bikes, I'm able to store, 10, 12 bikes in here at a time. And working at the Polaris where I was working, during COVID, there was a layoff where they were able to, a voluntary furlough where you got to pick a time, and me being me, very busybody, have to be doing something. I was like, what am I going to do in this 2 weeks that I'm off? So I decided to kind of like, well, maybe I could do what Brooke Reams did and film videos out of my garage, out of my shop, but instead of focusing on airheads or K-bikes, I would just have everything. And rather than making there's all sorts of other YouTubers out there, and I've watched them all, and like they're all great. Like I've never talked trash on any other BMW YouTuber because I love what they do to the community. They helped me, and I hope they help you guys. But I just saw the missing link and like what needed to be done. A lot of these YouTubers, they're doing a clutch job on a K1200 LT, we'll say, and it's a 7-part video. And each part is 30 minutes long. And halfway through the video, they're talking about something completely irrelevant to the job at hand. So I was like, well, why don't I start filming YouTube videos working out of my garage, but be very straight to the point and just, this is what we're doing. And here we are. And something that a customer or a viewer could bring their laptop out in their garage and watch my video, pause it, do the job, watch the video, pause it. And instead of watching a 7-part series, it was a one video that was 40 minutes long to complete a full clutch job, or if they're doing an oil change at home, one video that's 3 minutes long that tells them everything they need to know and nothing they don't need to know. So I started doing that, and honestly, like in my head, I was like, I'm gonna do this for 1 year, and at the end of the year, if it's not like successful or I'm not where I wanna be, and I'm not getting any views or people aren't, if I'm not helping anyone, I'm like, I'll just stop, like whatever. Like, I'm doing this for free. Like I'm literally doing this as a hobby to kill time. It started as that at least. And if it doesn't help anyone, whatever, I'll just stop doing it. So I guess this is my 100th video, so it's obviously worked. I have far more subscribers than I ever even imagined having. I think at the time of this video, I'm at just over 30,000 subscribers. And now I've set a goal out for myself to get 100,000. Like that's something that I didn't even at any point in my life feel that was even remotely achievable. To get 100,000 subscribers, 100,000 people watching me, that's ridiculous. And now some of my videos have over 100,000 views. And I see all the positive comments and positive feedback that you guys have given to me, and it really does motivate me. Like, if I could get 100,000 subscribers, that would be like a dream come true. That would be incredible. I couldn't even fathom that. And like working out of my garage, I've had a lot of other people notice where companies have approached me like, hey, will you, Spiegler brake lines. They make a very high quality brake line, and I've done several videos installing their parts, like not making any money from them, but they're like, hey, do you want to be a dealer for us? Like, and I was like, oh, yeah, sure. So that's kind of where the BMW parts guy came about. Like, started that with Spiegler brake lines, where I was selling brake lines just for Spiegler brake lines, and sold a couple sets of them. And then I started, dealing with some other companies. Now I sell all sorts of parts for pretty much every BMW, every make and model. I sell everything, all these maintenance parts, and I was able to use my BMW channel to help market those parts to you guys. So not only are you learning how to do the job, but then you're also, what parts you need. And I'm here to help every step of the way. Like when you place an order for, not to like plug my own parts channel right now, but when you place an order for chain and sprockets on an F700 GS and you get it and you're like, oh man, maybe this is a little bit more of an undertaking that I imagined. Like, guess what? I'm here to help. When you buy parts from me, I send you step-by-step instructions. If you have any questions, I'm here. Like, I send you all my information, and I will literally spend an hour on the phone with you, guiding you through the entire process, making sure you do everything correctly and everything smoothly. So I just really wanted to be, now my goal is to be the #1 BMW parts supplier, being able to be a one-stop shop where you can watch how to do a process, watch how to do a job on a bike. I can answer all your questions and help you out with parts. Like, as far as I know, I'm one of the youngest people in the BMW, at this market segment, we'll say, in BMW, selling parts, doing YouTube. I'm one of the youngest, and I mean, maybe one day I'll be the only. Like, let's be honest here, you know, like, these BMW motorcycles are, like, especially the airheads, they're getting far and few between. Parts are getting harder and harder to find, and I don't know. But I guess that's kind of my story and how I got here where I am today. And if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, I don't know, write it down in the comments below. I can answer all your questions. Please, please, please subscribe to my video, and like, thank you. Like, this is my 100th video. I never even imagined having 100 videos and having this level of followers watching this. So again, thank you very much. And as always, have a safe ride.